a little while back about another application that you can download right now and use for free for 3 months. That's a really good replacement for InDesign. It's called Affinity Publisher, and they're a company that makes a lot of really good Adobe alternatives. So this is one I highly recommend that you all try out. It's better than that online one that I pointed you all to. And again, it's free for the next 3 months. And they've also reduced the price by 50%. So it's 25 bucks will buy you the application for life, which is cheaper than the $10, $20 a month you have to pay Adobe to be able to have access to their software. So, if you use the app for 2, 3 months and decide you like it, scrape together 25 bucks, it's well worth the investment. But it is a pro level desktop publishing software. It will do pretty much anything that InDesign will do. So I've switched to it for the most part professionally, so I recommend it. It does everything I need it to do. So I just want to show you a little bit how it works. The interfaces are weird on the Affinity programs, so it's a little bit different than the Adobe interface, and I just wanted to show you where you can find some of the things we've been using fairly frequently, some of the frequently used tools and such. When you open the app, uh, you'll get this new document dialog. So what you can do is you can go in and select whether you're doing a document for print or photography or a web or a device, and it'll give you some pre-made document sizes. Like if you're going to design something for an iPad mini, you can select here. It'll give you that exact document size. So for print, we're doing 8.5 by 11 most of the time. So you could select letter, and that's what's going to show over here. It's going to do an 8.5 by 11, 300 dpi. You can change to vertical or horizontal. Image placement policy, prefer embedded. You can leave all the stuff. If you've got multiple pages, this is where you add pages. Facing pages, if you have multiple pages, you would have facing pages. Don't worry about that yet. The other thing is you can include margins down here. So you can have a margin right now set to 1 inch on top, bottom, left, and right, or top, left, and right. At the bottom, it's 1.25 inches. You can change all that stuff. If you want them to all be the same, click here to turn that lock on. And I think if I change that now, everything should be the same. So this lock will make sure all margins are the same. So we'll just leave that at 2 for now. And then if you need a bleed on your document, you would set it here. So if I create that, I get my new document. And now looking at it, I know that margin is too big and I want to change it. Now in InDesign, it's under document setup. It's easy to find. In this program, it's a little hard to find. So if I want to change that and just totally get rid of that margin, I need to change that. I would go to File, Spread. Like in InDesign, it's in Document Setup. Here, it's in Spread Setup. So I'll click that, and there are my margins, and I can just make those 0. And again, with the lock on, it keeps them all the same. So I hit OK. Now there's my document with 0 margins. First thing you might want to do is place an image. So again, here's a box with a X in it. That's going to indicate that it's a picture frame. So if I click and drag that, just like our InDesign for the most part. Now, with the box selected, you get this little dot here at the top. What I can do is I can hover over that. You'll see the cursor change. That's how I'm going to rotate it. That's one way to rotate it. If I hover outside a corner, I can rotate it that corner. Okay, if I drag a corner, I can resize it. If I shift and drag, it resizes it and constrains it so it's the same proportions. So there's my image, and I can make that a color, or I can use an image. Right now, let's go ahead and put an image in. So if I go to File and Place, just like in InDesign, I can navigate to my image, select it, hit Open, and it drops it in there. Now this is kind of nice compared to InDesign. Once the image is in there, I get some new controls. You'll see this little rotation icon and these 4 arrows, and what that is that's going to let you move that image around. Okay, if I click here, that's going to let you rotate that image. Okay, so that's kind of a nice thing to be able to do. I can also click that image, and if I want to size it to make it fit, my selection tool, if I right click on that box, I can go to frame properties. I can scale it to maximum fit, which it already is. It came in like that. If I scale it to minimum fit, it comes down just a little bit. I can go in and do stretch, and you never want to do this because it distorts the image. So really there's no good reason to do that. But if I go back to scale to max fit, I can also click down here in the slider, scale my image up and down. So again, that's nice in that it's really interactive, and it's really easy to kind of move your images inside that box. It's a lot easier than InDesign, so that's kind of nice. Now let's say you wanted to put a stroke around this box. What you can do is with the box selected, up at the top you'll see the properties for the box that you can change. If you want to replace an image, you would click here, then we'll let you go in and pick a new image. If you want to give it a fill, you can click here, but we've got an image in there. If you want to give it a stroke, it's got a default color of black and no stroke. If I click here, it gives me a pop-up where I can give it some width, so now it's got a stroke on it. I can also make it a dotted line or a brush stroke, which you don't want to get into that probably. Well, I'll show you what you can do. So with brush stroke, what you can do, if you hit pressure down here, you can drag this up and down, and then you can add some varying width to the box outline, which can give you some nice effects if you want to go that route. So that kind of gives you a little more variation than InDesign does. If you want to change that, you can again select the box, go back up here, hit that, and I believe you can just click on the pressure and reset, and you're back to normal. And then you can slide that up or down. And you can also click it to scale with objects, which means if I make this object bigger, let's see. By clicking that other box and scaling it up, it scales the size of the outline. Okay, if I turn that off, I believe it will keep the width of that outline. Okay, so that's something you might want to be aware of. All right, so there's that. If I want to do just a color of a box, I'll select my box, go ahead and change this to no stroke. Over here is the color palette. If you can't find it here, it'll be up here in View Studio. So things are hidden a little bit away. If it's not there, you can click on color and it'll show up. The way this works is, again, you have in the background here, that is the stroke color. The foreground is the solid dot there with the red through it. That's the foreground color. So if I want to pick a color, I can just pick down here. I can adjust those with a slider. I can also go to swatches, pick some grays. Here are some other swatches. Again, we talked about Pantone color a little bit, but you can choose from different swatch palettes here. Crayons, Pantone, CMYK coated. You get a lot of color options here. So that's how you can go in and select colors for your boxes. Swatches here, you can change that. If you double click on this, it gives you another color picker that you can just go in and pick that way. Go back to color, and now you're back on your swatches. And the box here, you can control the opacity of the box, so it's lighter, darker. You can do all that. Again, you can work in layers if you want to do that. Okay, so that's how you might deal with graphic boxes and photos. If you're dealing with text, what you can do is click your text tool and drag it. And you can drag it out large. And you can select it, and you can go in and hold down Shift, or actually you don't need to hold down Shift. You can drag it and it will maintain proportions by just grabbing a corner. If you want to stretch it, grab middle box there and stretch it that way. Again, this is for rotation, or just hover outside there for rotation. If you want to change the text just with the box selected, you can go to your text palette down here. You get character, text styles, paragraph. So hit character. This is where you change stuff like the font size. And just with it selected, it's going to let me go in and change that. So that's kind of nice. And then I can change my font. And this is going to read your local fonts on your computer. And this doesn't always seem to want to update really fast if you scroll really fast, but it looks like it's showing you a preview of whatever font you're hovering over, so that's good. But everything else you would kind of work with the same. Positioning transform, that's where you're going to adjust your tracking and your leading. So click here and adjust that to bring those in, or open it up a little bit. If I want to skew it some, I can click here. If I just want to stretch it, I can do it here. So you've got more controls over your font here, or your character, I should say. You can do, if your font has bold or versions, you'll get the ability to do that. So let's see, I think Arial has 4 different options. So click there and you can scroll through and pick those. Now, if you've got a lot of text, let's see. So I was hoping it would give me just a dummy text option, but I don't see one. So let's just go in and let's say I'm going to put in a paragraph of stuff. And let's just do that. Okay, so if we want to do like a paragraph of text, what I probably want to do is, let's see, again, if I draw a rectangle out about the size, let's go ahead and make that no fill, no stroke. If I draw my box out and click inside of it, I believe it'll, nope. Okay, here's something that's a little bit different than InDesign. Now with InDesign, if I wanted to do like a paragraph of body copy, what I could do is I could grab the text tool and click and drag it and would draw out a box the size I wanted. It doesn't look like you can do that in Affinity, but what you could do is just grab your rectangle tool, and if you click here and hold, you've got all these other tools too that you can use, or these other shapes that you can create. So you could use your rectangle tool. Let's try the picture tool also. If I click and drag that out, what I can then do is click on properties. No, never mind that. If I right click with my mouse, I can convert it to a text frame, and then I can go in and I can create text. All right, so that'll let me put a lot of body copy in there, and then because that's it's a text box, it behaves like a paragraph, and I can go in to my paragraph tool. I can center that, align it right, align it left. All those options I have for manipulating paragraphs, this is where you would find it. Okay, and then I can still go in and my character adjust my leading here. And all these, if you hover over them, they'll give you a little tip as to what they are. So that might be helpful. But that's kind of just the basics of this. Again, you can give your text a color. Let's see. Looks like you can give it a stroke and a fill color, again, by whichever one you select. So there's some stuff you can do to kind of manipulate things, but it basically works the same as InDesign. Just things are kind of in a different place. So if you're pretty confident with InDesign, you can figure this out. If you decide to use it and you bump into a problem and can't figure out how to do something, let me know and I can throw up a real quick little short video to show you how to do that. I don't mind doing that. It's pretty easy for me to do now. But that's Affinity Publisher. So I would recommend you download this software and use it for the rest of the semester if you don't have access to InDesign. I like it a lot. Some things it does a little bit better than InDesign. But it is a little bit of a learning curve figuring out the interface and figuring out where things are. But I'll encourage you to download it, use it for free for the next 2.5, 3 months. And if you like it, and have the $25 while it's still on sale for 50% off, it would save you, you'd make that back in a couple months of not having to pay Adobe to use InDesign. But it's a pro level application and it'll do just, anything that InDesign can do for the most part that you'll ever need to do. It'll do it. Okay, so hopefully this is helpful to any of you who have decided to use this. And again, if you have questions about it, let me know. I can probably throw together a little how-to video for certain things you're trying to accomplish. Just let me know. Thanks.